This is Pitchdeck Asia. My name is Graham Brown. We are in the studio today, joined by two fellow Frenchmen, Clement and Greg.
Hey, Greg.
So I switched into Spanish there, sorry.
Very nice.
Easily mixed up, so my apologies. Greg, Clement, welcome to the studio, both
Thanks.
from UEX. We're going to talk about InsurTech. We're going to talk about your solutions. Both obviously from France. Correct?
We'll see with the accent, yes.
Yes, we've done really well with the French tech here. They've been very kind to us, and we love the French tech guys. So this is the long continuation of French expats here in the studio. Where are you chaps from originally in France? How about yourself, Clement, first?
I come from a town near Paris, but I actually grew up in Singapore.
Okay.
I was born here, then moved back to France. And I came back in 97 when I was 12, where I've met this guy. So
Right.
we've been friends for more than 20 years prior to being colleagues
So you met in 1997
here in Singapore.
in
Exactly.
Singapore. Okay.
Opposite the road there, to be precise.
Exactly.
All right. I need to find out how you met, but I'll ask you in a minute. So you were born here in
Yes.
Singapore. Do you have a Singaporean passport?
No, nothing.
No. So you grew up
Actually, my mother was pregnant when we moved here,
in...
and she had to leave a deposit to make sure that I won't claim the nationality, which I haven't done since.
Okay,
So
good.
we
So
are
you got her
safe.
money back, right? So
Yes.
now that you're back here, okay, doesn't invalidate that
No,
bond,
it's still
does
fine.
it? Okay, so
So
you grew
basically,
up
I
in
feel like I grew up here
France. Yeah.
since there are important years. So I went through high school here, then moved back to France to study.
Okay. So you went to local high school here.
Yes,
Okay.
and then studied in Paris.
Mm.
I'm an engineer, telecom engineer.
Mm.
And then I've spent 10 years working in France prior to moving back to Singapore almost 3 years ago.
So you moved back 3 years ago,
Yes,
but you met 20 years ago.
exactly.
All right, we'll piece it all together. Greg, welcome.
Hi.
Your story, born in France.
Born in France, sorry about that. It's not that
That's my
exciting.
apologies.
In Paris.
When did you move here?
Actually, in 1996,
96?
1 year before him.
Yeah.
And yes, we grew up. I was at a French school. I lived my first year in Cameroon. My father used to work there. So we like to say that we are like our customers, like expats.
Yeah.
And so my father used to work in Cameroon. Then we came back in Paris. I spent until 96. And then all my study at the French school. Then came back for the study as him, but I'm in the business school. So I was at the business school. And then only insurance for 10 years.
What were you doing in insurance? What side of insurance?
Brokerage.
Mhm.
I was working for Willis Tower Watson, the subsidiary in France. Then I was working for Verspiren, which is a family-owned company from the north of France, which is one of the first investors of the company, UEX.
So your relationships were all insurance companies and brokerages, were they?
A lot, yes. And even my father is working for AXA, so I can tell you that it's kind of a family thing.
Family thing, insurance, right?
Yeah, I didn't want to say it this way because actually the reality is I'm on the broker side, so meaning I'm defending the customer.
Yeah.
He's not,
Yeah.
but because he's on the insurance part.
Surely you're all on the customer's side, no?
Let's
It's a
say
long
it this way.
conversation.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
All right, so you come from the world of insurance. You said you were a telecom engineer?
Yes.
You,
Well,
I mean,
actually, I've been through different worlds. I
Yeah.
started working, build mathematical models for traders
Mhm.
in Singapore. And so I worked in investment banking for 2-3 years. And I don't know if it was bad timing but I decided to change because I didn't enjoy it much.
Mm.
So I moved to the telecom side. And really, it was process driven. So I was in a big IT company for Total, their IT department. Then I moved to work as an economist for Total for all the oil development projects.
Mhm.
And then I started hearing big data. And so I started learning online what it was because everybody was using the word, but I was a bit curious of how it was. And I went back to school to study data science, which I did use for 2 years prior to discovering insurance.
Mhm. Okay, what a great place to apply your skill as well. We're going to talk about UEX, that's what it's all about. You've given us some clues so far, something to do with insurance, something to do with the expat community. You'll help us understand. Let's get the beginnings of the pitch deck up if we can. If I just sort of scoot to the beginning. I've just been flicking through your pitch deck before you came on, so we're a bit out of sync on the slides here. Now, help us understand first, what is this all about? If we were doing an elevator pitch for UEX, putting you on the spot, I didn't say we were going to do this, so this wasn't prepared. Explain to me UEX as if I was your grandmother.
Yes, that was one of the questions.
Not in French.
Okay. But if you were my grandmother, I would ask you if you have ever read your contract, and you would say no. Second question.
Let me think about it. You're right there, Clement. I haven't read them.
And second question would be, did you understand it? Of course not. And how much are you paying for it? And is it the right price? Definitely no idea. And we are talking about health, and I don't think there's anything more precious than that. So we kind of solve this issue, meaning you understand what you get it in a seamless way. That's my process background. And you get the right product. That's his knowledge. So in a few words, that's it.
I think you've done really well.
Thank you.
And I think Grandma understands that as well. You didn't use any technology. I didn't hear blockchain. I didn't hear insurtech or anything like that.
No, because we are talking to customers, and whatever it's behind, they don't need to know.
Right. Okay. So where did this start? Where did you have the insight that this was a problem or a pain point in the industry? Where did the genesis of UEX start?
I have to let him answer that one.
Greg.
Okay, so working in the insurance brokerage for the past, now it's like a long time. The reality of the thing is like you start realizing that an insurance product is every time something very simple, because actually it's basic. As Clement said, we try to cover and protect your health. So health and healthcare is very simple in a way that you are consuming it. I mean, you want to be secured, you want to go to a specialist. That's how you need to talk about it. So, and before, basically an insurance product is like you have different line of protection, and each line of protection cover you for something very, very real. And whether you talk about your car, covering your insurance car, or talking about the person you are covering, at the end of the day, there is a risk behind, and you have a level of cover which is really exactly the same. You have a level of coverage and you have a price linked to that. So what I figured out in terms of technical parts was, whenever you create a product, it should be every time the same. One line of coverage, one price, linked to different factors. Whether it's the brand of your car, whether it's your age, it's impacting the price. So that's really where that comes from. So when I was in insurance brokerage, from Willis Towers Watson to Verspieren, the difficulty was, it's every time very complicated. The guys, they are lawyers, or they are from the insurance background for the past maybe 20 years. It's not a judgment, it's a reality. And so the guys say, it's very complex, and they are paying for telling you that it's complex, and I need to explain it to you in a way that you need this one, but you don't know really why you need this one compared to this one. And by the way, the reality, I've been working on, construction insurance, in affinity system. So, companies were building some real estate and things like that. I've done some insurance for French Sport Federation. I've done some insurance for loss and damage mobile phone products. And the reality is every time the same. And the price, the system, how you calculate the price and things like that. But all the guys were saying we are doing something totally different from each other. So whenever we wanted to, I wanted to create at the beginning the project was, make it very simple to understand that anyone can understand. And when I was talking to my friend, I was telling them, they would say, it's very complicated. And I was saying, no, it's like this. And everyone was understanding it. So, by the way, Clem is the best to explain really how simple it is, because he has done mathematics before, so he has done a lot of more complex things. But the reality and the core was make it simple for everyone to understand and to buy insurance. So that was really what I wanted to do. Then my background was more and more entrepreneurial in the way. It was coming from an employee side when I was at Willis Towers Watson to an entrepreneur way at Verspieren. And when I came to UEX, I was still kind of an entrepreneur because my former employer was investing in the company we created. And then now we are entrepreneurs because my investors are new now. It's a new investor. So my point is it was also a path on my side. It was a goal to be really transforming the things. And why I don't judge, I was saying defending the customer or something like that. I don't judge an insurance company because we started from scratch. So it's kind of much easier to say, okay, I've seen what's the problem in the big, large company with so many employees. So now that I'm doing it myself, let's try to make it more simple. But even on our side, it's more complex.
Okay. I get the point about it's a lot easier for you because you're a small, agile company compared to an AXA or AIG, or for example. And we're going to have a look at your product and your deck in a minute. Isn't there a vested interest? Isn't there an interest for insurance to be complicated? Because then it kind of hides what they really do. And if what they're really doing, as you were saying, Greg, is the same, then they can effectively sell it for a higher price. If you don't understand it, I can sell it for a higher price effectively in a way, like, like financial products.
That's true for sure. But I think that the way the world is changing, it's very easy to get access to information now. And if you do a really nice YouTube video explaining why they're ripping you off, then your 20 years of complexifying things are
exposed.
Exactly.
So explain to me about ripping off as a consumer. Let's say, okay, mobile phone insurance. I don't have that. I think that's a waste of money, for example.
No, I'm not saying they are selling you things that are a rip-off. I'm saying they make it impossible for you to compare.
Right. Meaning, like a health insurance, there's so many different lines.
So exactly, and that's how they are.
Do I need helicopter benefit and stuff like that?
You don't have. They are not being dishonest.
Right.
They are just. It's their marketing strategy, I would say. I'm different from the other, and I make it so complex for you to compare that once you are quite happy or stuck with a brand, then you just stick to it.
Right. And that's how they make their money, by increasing the premiums every year.
Well, there are two things. They increase the premium and they make money. But first, they are trying to make money. Let's be honest. They are not making tons of money. They are rich, but I'm not sure they are today. And that's not really facts, but I'm seeing it from what we're doing, and I strongly believe I'm right. And what I think, they can do a lot more money by being more efficient and not just increasing premiums, but
there is another point also, is like it's not the insurance who is a bad player or the customer who's like consuming bad. There is any more reconciliation between both. So the reality of the thing is like insurance, and the roots of insurance is mutualizing a risk. So the reason why you go to insurance company usually is because you cannot afford it yourself. Whether you're crossing the street, you get eaten by a car, it's $200,000. Maybe some people can do that, and by the way, they don't take insurance. But the majority of the people take insurance for large things. But the reality is, what the customer sees is the small thing. Meaning, like, I'm not covered because I had a GP consultation and I didn't do the process and it was not very clear in the line. So it's more a simplification to come back to the roots of insurance, which is really explaining to the customer is part of a mutualization. But for sure, if you want to explain that to a customer, it means that you need to be very transparent and you need to be trustful, which is, for at the moment, the difficulty. So what we try is to reconcile both, because at the end of the day, both are trying their best to cover the people. And I mean, the people from the insurance company, as Clement says, they are not trying to do something wrong or to make more money. But the point is nature. They have difficulties with that. So I strongly believe by explaining really how the product is working, by the way, it's helping people to understand why they are paying this price. And on the insurance side, we can really have a discussion and we can be transparent, because sometimes people are saying like it's very expensive for maternity insurance, for example. Give an example. So maternity insurance, it's not, pregnancy, delivery. I'm not talking about complication. Pregnancy, delivery, you take a pregnancy insurance, it's because you expect to go. It's not a probability, a small probability. You want to have a child. So it's not anymore a risk you are covering, it's a reality. So it's not anymore insurance in a way, because technically you will have to pay, the insurance company will have to pay for it.
Right, that's so what are you insuring? Because it doesn't cover complications, right? That's what you want to insure as an individual. I want to insure, I don't want a $200,000 hospital bill for a complication. So
how can you cover that? It's like, how do you optimize the price? First, you will pay. So meaning like, we need to, the customer need to really understand. We know Singapore, so KK Hospital versus Mount Elizabeth. I'm sorry about that, but Mount Elizabeth, very expensive. Same, at the end, the doctors are great on both sides. But there is a public hospital, and for the same thing, for pregnancy delivery, one will be maybe $5,000, the other maybe $20,000. And we are talking about like kind of something which is not insurance. When you talk about complications, that's where you're covering a risk, because that's where you cannot, expect to pay a specific amount, because maybe the child will be like for maybe 3 weeks inside, in a difficulty, so you will be at the hospital and the price will be much higher. That's where you have insurance.
Yeah.
So that's what we try to show to the customer.
Got it. All right. Okay. Let's understand that a little bit by looking at the solution part of the pitch deck. And we jump forward a little bit. You've done a good job of explaining what the problem is. If I fast forward to slide 8, in terms of what this actually is, you've got some numbers here. You said you succeed in scaling health insurance distribution using 90% of technology, 10% of human care. How does that actually work? Let's sort of look at the pitch deck here and understand exactly what this product is. So what is UEX? Product side. So maybe that's your question.
I can answer this one. UEX is a mix, like we say, so numbers are 90-10. So it's a platform, that's the tool. But I won't say that UEX is the tool. The tool is just the way we get there. What UEX is we optimize what has no value for the customer, meaning me sitting next to you and watching you fill up your paper, no value at all. What you want when you're looking for an intermediary is advice. You want to get insight and advice. So we use a tool to completely optimize entering your date of birth, giving me your name, and basically all that, and the subscription part afterwards. And we focus on the advice. And the advice, there are 2 parts of advising, I would say. One that is just providing information for you to go through, which we do it online using our platform and the tool. And the second part is specific question, because we are talking about health, and health cannot be standardized. We are humans, and that's why we are different. And so what is UEX? The 10% that is left is really the value that we are bringing facing the customer. All the rest is automated, and that can be done using technology. And that's almost the tip of the iceberg, is what you can see. What you cannot see, it's a tool, it's APIs, and then I can use the tech words that are trendy now, but they're real. If I want to have a pricing engine, I can have APIs, I can change my front end whenever I want, so I can focus on what really has value for the customer, is the experience I'm bringing.
How does that differ, so I understand it, and I'm sure people may be interested, to, let's say, a comparison platform? Or
that's interesting, the question. On the comparison, it's very interesting, because what are you comparing? The question is like the pain point for me, for the brokers today, they are comparing things they don't really understand, which are not comparable, instead of understanding really what the product you're buying. In other words, when you say, okay, I'm telling you like what's the best, take an insurance company, international health insurance, 1 million Singapore dollars annual limit, or 3 million. What's the best? What's the best product for you?
As a consumer, I don't have an opinion.
So the point is 1 million for the annual limit means that it's up to this annual limit that you can be reimbursed for any hospitalization. Okay? So first of all, you need to understand what we are talking about, which, by the way, when they say this product is good because it's 3 million and this one is 1 million, okay, you don't understand. Second point is nobody touch more than 300,000 Sing dollars usually of annual limit. So meaning even 1 million is already enough. So taking the 3 million doesn't make any sense. It's just marketing additional, but nobody is paying for that. So at the end of the day, what Clem says also is like there is a product behind. So we don't compare different insurance products. We have created an insurance product.
Right.
And we work with AXA today. They had a lot of products. So we didn't create a product in a way that we didn't ask a pricing, or we didn't ask to create really from scratch a product. We had local cover from AXA. We had international cover. We had middle cover between both, which was like this. And they were selling one product one by one, with every time one different subscription process, one questionnaire different. What we have done is we have simplified. We have merged all those products inside the platform. So when you look at the deck, you see the sliders. You know, there is one level 1, level 2, level 3. Level 1 is a local cover.
Right.
Okay.
I don't know where it is on the deck.
You have it here.
Okay.
So you see every time the
my
level.
Eyesight.
But the point of this one is you have one level. Level 1 is a local cover. If you go to base plan 3, it will be another contract. Technically, it's 2 different products. But on our system, you don't care. The question is like, what level of coverage do you want? So we have simplified really this. And on the subscription side, what Clement was saying is like, at the end of the day, the questions are the same. The medical questionnaire is the same. So we have, and we are the only one compliant. So meaning like they were the only one going really from the customization of your product to the subscription and payment of your product for health insurance. Car insurance they are doing, travel insurance they are doing, but on the health insurance in Singapore we are the only one.
So let me understand, right? If a startup was to create a health insurance product from scratch with the backing of an AXA, for example, this is what it would be. You would apply the startup idea of making it simple, great design, good consumer experience.
Exactly.
All right.
So that's exactly the point. And before being, at the end of the day, what you want is to get reimbursed.
Yeah.
Because you're buying the product, but after you want to that. But the problem is like you need to have some customer before being able to serve them. So we started by this platform. It's like really a full management contract system.
Yeah.
Meaning like you can update your product, you can add your family members if there is something about it. So that's really the core vision. And when
this is a problem as well, isn't it, for insurance companies generally, is servicing the product later on, which is, they make promises and then not necessarily able to deliver on all of those, just because, not because it's broken, but because customer service isn't where they make money, right? So this is a challenge. If you can solve that problem.
But I don't know if you know Lemonade. Lemonade is one of the famous insurtech. Yeah. And what they are saying, they are really separating the cost of the management, the contract management, administration of the contract, and the pricing, which is very interesting. There is a lot of things I can say about Lemonade, but this one is very interesting because we are talking about your pricing. So if there is an increase of your price based on the claims which has been done by all the community, you know that the increase is not because the insurance company is the bad company because they want to do more money on you. It's because you consumed a lot and it's not sufficient what you are paying for all the community. And by showing what they get money, the trust is back because you understand how they make money, what's the level of money they are doing, and that's normal because the service is there. Difficulty is like, as we said, like it's like AXA, I don't know how old are they, but it's like very old company, very old in not a way, a bad way, but it's like, it has been created a long time ago. So technically, all the problems faced by AXA is also all their legacy system, all the employees, the transformation, and all these kind of things.
All right, got it. Okay, let me ask you a question then. Important question. Why you're doing this? So why are you doing this? Why are you focused on, obviously I understand from an insurance point of view because it's your background, but beyond that, why? What motivates you when you get up in the morning and make this happen?
Well, I have a why that is that can be applied to insurance. That's good news. Is at some point I wanted to be a teacher. Why? Because I think people should have access to knowledge. And here, everyone is saying, it's complex, I don't understand, and so forth. So when I have, today we have more than 2,000 clients, and they all understood their contracts. So that's a pretty strong why. And you just said insurance companies are making promises they cannot keep. That's strong. In fact, they are not making promises they cannot keep. It's written on a contract, and it's just you understood something that you think they won't keep. But if you understand from the day one, the trust is back. So that's a very strong why. And so people get to understand exactly what they get. And the second thing is I hate inefficiencies. And I think there are a lot to do in this.
Why do you hate inefficiencies?
It's a lot of time. It's not productive. It doesn't bring anything to people. People are not happy with it. So if something is working fine, then everyone is happy. Yeah. And it creates value because in the end, if we are very efficient, you will pay less.
Okay. I like it. How about yourself?
Me, it's like, let's say it this way. It's part of a path for me personally first. I think what I wanted is like to have an impact. So if you ask me why insurance, I might say maybe because it's a family thing, but at the end of the day, it's because I got into insurance and I wanted to change things. And it would have been in another sector, I think I would have done it also. I would have tried it. So I think at the end of the day, what I want to do is to have an impact in let's say a social impact. So coming from insurance is mixed. We chose health is not for, it's for a reason. I think we are touching the life of people much more than if it was like for a phone, a mobile phone or a watch or something like that. So to me, it's the first step of something potentially even bigger, because my idea is like, how do you transform the vision of people? Because the core story of insurance is taking care of each other. And that's really the purpose at the beginning, before it's starting to be commercial and things like that. You know, there is a famous Japanese, I don't remember the name, I think it's a Moa, or I don't remember the name, but there is a famous Japanese community. And this famous community, at one point we were asking ourselves if we wanted to name the company like this. They have the bigger percentage of people more than 100 years old.
Okinawa.
In Okinawa, I don't remember the name, but and the idea is like, they explain why also is because they created a fund in order to take care of each other for everything. That's what insurance is at the beginning. That's mutually taking care of each other in a community.
It's a nice story as well. There's a lot to be sort of found in that story.
Something I really believe in. It's
yeah. Well, I mean, it brings you back to serving people rather than serving products, right? Which is why we're here.
Exactly.
And it's a challenge when you're in a large corporate. We've all worked in the corporate world, that it easily becomes something else, and we can forget that. And great companies, and you know, the luxury of working in a startup is you can stay close to that, right? That serving of people. So let me ask you, how long has UEX been around? When did you actually start the company? So how old are you now?
3 years old.
So
around,
3?
Yeah.
Yeah. In that journey, you must have learned a lot.
Yes.
Yeah, and you know, it's this sort of like straight line path never happens. It's more sort of like this, right? Many ups and downs. That's the nature of being an entrepreneur in a startup. So what I want to ask you, chaps, is that, you know, given that you're here to, you know, as we discussed, that sort of very sort of human focused goal, helping people protect and serve each other as well, right? And you know, like that whole sort of community building that is really mutual insurance, right? With that in mind, what have you learned in those 3 years? And maybe make it easier for you, is that what do you know differently now about UEX and insurance that you didn't know when you started out? How are you doing things differently? Because I do not believe you got it right day one.
I know, we did definitely. So if you want a really good example of why we didn't get it right first, we started by a mobile app to sell health insurance. So nobody buys his health insurance, specifically health insurance, because it's very complex, on a mobile phone. You go on your laptop or something like that. So that's one perfect example. And you take the time to do that, by the way, because that's something very important. So
let's go with that example. I think it's a great example. So you started out, and the reason why I think we should share this is because anybody who looks at a company, whether it's somebody who works for you, somebody who wants to partner with you, or an investor, really wants to understand that journey. And they understand that, how did you deal with failure and make mistakes and talk about mistakes? And the more you do that, and you're more honest, it's a good sign for somebody to connect with you. So you started out with a mobile app idea. When did you drop that idea, and how did you sort of like move forward from that?
So the reality of the thing is like, 3 years ago, so we had 4 months to develop the minimum viable product, so the MVP. And so the most difficult for the MVP was more the product, the insurance product, than the platform, because at one point it was very complicated to convince an insurance company in Singapore, just arriving in Singapore, telling them like, guys, we are going to do a lot of money with you guys, and can you spend a lot of time with us to work on a product which is not your product today, to be able to send it. So this one has been quite complex. We had some chance. AXA is French. We have some French fellows in AXA company, and I think the mix of Singaporean and French at that time was really good. We didn't drop the idea. It's the beauty of doing it on the mobile first was we didn't have space to be able to display the product.
Right.
So we needed to really optimize the way we explain it, and on the mobile, so make it very simple. Yeah. So we were very lucky, because when we went on the desktop version, we had so much space to explain the things and to do the tips. And because we were so focused about be very optimized, it was already the culture of the team. So that was.
Do you think there's a lesson in that for startup founders? Is maybe the first thing they should develop is a mobile app? Because then you can just do one thing really well.
I don't know, because it was quite painful, to be very clear with you.
But how we realized it, we used it ourselves. We were two at the beginning, so once it was ready, we got out the two of us trying to sell health insurance.
Internation, for example.
And it's been hard.
Yeah.
I came from not an insurance background, and I was out with my mobile app trying to sell it out. And it's the moment of truth. If you use it yourself, then you get to know your clients. And definitely we realized we're off. So the message is right, the display is right, the meaning is right. The way we do it is wrong.
The second story I think we had is like there was like one persona story when we started the idea. So everything was about the mobile international people. So expat people now. So people who are coming in Singapore, but not anymore in the expat way, with all the package. And so they need to cover themselves for themselves, or like take some top up with the cover they have for the corporate. And the story was Veronica and Jessica. I change the name every time, but Veronica and Jessica at barbecue. One is with UEX, and the other is just arriving in Singapore and search for health insurance. Okay, the story is a bit complex first, but anyway. So Veronica shared a profile, UX profile, with her insurance product to Jessica, and she can recustomize her insurance product because they look like each other and they have the same kind of need and things like that. Nobody share an insurance product at a barbecue or any kind of things like that.
Not that only I've been to recently.
But what we realized was when you give it to a sales, to someone for the company or even any intermediary, the sharing button we wanted them to do a variety became a tool for us to generate 5 customization in 5 minutes. Meaning, depending on your story, I'm telling you, okay, here is the international coverage, here's the basic, and the price you see is the real price you will pay. So it was so that's another story. We never fail in a way that we said okay, let's erase it. We used it in another way.
Yeah, to solve your own problem.
Exactly.
Okay, I think that's fantastic, and that is the way to do it. Use this to solve your own problems, and then other people might find that useful.
We were quite lucky, to be very frank.
Yeah, well,
we did a lot of mistakes, and it was from hiring. A startup is for every company, it's people, and you need to align everyone's interest. The client, but what I was saying is nice. I want to explain to people why they want insurance, but my investor, he doesn't care. Well, he should care, but he hopes that I will make it in a way I can make a lot of money.
Absolutely,
so
that's why he's investing.
You need to align all of those. Where we learned a lot is communicating a lot, the two of us and within the team. So to always iterate and say, are we doing the right thing? And in the right timing. So we failed quite fast, like everyone says, but it was always small mistakes. Yeah. So along the way, we got the path quite right, and we're still on it. So
the good news was there was a need. So maybe the failure would have been, direct if at the beginning, health insurance and what they call PMI or IPMI, private medical insurance, or IPMI, international private medical insurance. There is a big market and there is a real need. So I think that was a good thing for us, because even if we were doing it wrongly or we were changing some things. Yeah. And so there was some kind of value. And we were very true. I think that's very important. That's the reason it's good to have Clement or to have, our sales technically are not all real sales. Meaning that there are people who care about the fact that if they say you are covered for that and they are not covered for that, they are scared about the fact that the person in front of them will have a problem. And that's really the point. It's not about selling the product. It's about being sure that the person understood that they bought this, because after we won't be able to do anything. Yeah. And so they are scared about that in our team. But I think that the best thing is caring for the customer.
Yeah, exactly. And you empathize with them as well, and you care about the outcome rather than just collect the commission. Exactly. So tell us about the hustle as well. You've mentioned that you didn't come from a sales background, but you're out there selling, and you've talked about how you sell as well. And I think you're both two very lively and likable people, and I'm not just saying that because you're here, but I think you would sit well with anybody interested in insurance. But the challenge is going out there and knocking on the door. So and by the way, we do have people watching maybe there are some of your friends from back home in France, but we have had people sort of like joining in on the live stream. So if you are watching Clem and Greg in the studio, then do give us a thumbs up and show them your support, because it's startup life is not necessarily as glamorous as it appears. There's a lot of hard work. And let's talk about the hard work now, guys, the hustle, because hearing your story, it sounds like a lot of fun. It sounds cool. Right? They don't know what goes on behind the scenes. So tell us about how you actually hustled this product. How did you get out there and knock on doors? What did you do?
Okay.
You weren't doing barbecues, were you, and telling people?
But actually, that's...
we did at a point.
Okay, at one point, you need to like people for doing this. Because actually, the reality is, the first thing you need to have in mind is, well, I was explaining and presenting myself as an expat, but for this kind of niche market, you really need to be... 50% of our customers are French, okay? There is a reason why. It's because we are French. And the reality of the thing is, like, if you want to get some trust, it's more complicated for me to say I'm Australian. You see my accent. Yeah. And I cannot, even if I wanted to try to do so, it would be complicated.
Won't sound good. No.
The point is, like, difficulty is like to create a trust, like, because so many people are selling insurance in Singapore. It's a very small market. And when we launched, UEX doesn't mean anything, by the way,
it's even hard
around
to
insurance. So the story is, it's you as a customer next, because you're the interaction, so experience, exchange, and things like that. But nobody understands that at the beginning. So it's really about you first. It's like being outside, and he says I like it, but at one point I hated it, to be every time outside explaining what we believe in and why we are better than the others, and why we try to be more transparent and explain to you that we don't really, even if you don't take it with us, we are very happy if you understood it with us. You're the product.
But how did you do that? Were you out like pitching people at parties, or did you go into corporates and
there were steps along the way. When we started, our dream was a community referring people to each other and us waiting for clients.
That was the idea at the beginning.
We will get there.
That's why he accepted it, because if not,
I thought that would work. It doesn't.
Yeah. Okay.
No, the first month we were out every night meeting people, and Singapore is good for that.
Like the bars and
anything.
No, international community. In Singapore, so many French community, French number.
We could. Yeah. Then we got our first base of clients. So because the first question is, how long have you been around? 3 months. Okay. It's my health we are talking about.
Yeah.
And do you have experience in insurance? No, I come from an oil and gas company. All right. Then they just run away. So getting the first client, but still you seem like an honest guy. What you're doing is transparent and you're not bullshitting me. So we got our first clients. And then they refer each other. So then the second step was, okay, understand, I will ask around. Then they ask around, you're ex, okay, I'm a client, okay, I get the trust. And in fact, we are, you know it, you've been living in Singapore, it's only small communities.
Yeah.
And we target those communities. It's small, but it represents a large number of people. So we build up the trust. And we did our business in a way that we are here for the long term. And by being honest, you lose clients now, but they will come back eventually. Yeah. And now we are 3 years old. And people that didn't trust us 2 years ago, they start coming back, and that's the way we did. And then we built up a team that...
And how many in your team now?
20. So we're 20, including us,
yes.
So you plus another 18?
Exactly.
Yeah, okay. And what do they do? Are they on the development side, on the sales side?
I would say, to make it simple, a third of it is selling, a third is marketing, which is more communication for us than actually growth and acquisition, because that's not what we're doing. And the last part is developing, so technical side.
And how do your salespeople sell? Are they out there at every La French Tech event, or because that's going to get a small world after? Not another UEX guy after me.
We could call them advisors.
Right.
So actually, the idea is like, we believe that before talking about insurance, we talk about health. So we started, like Clem said, we were outside and we were like pushing it and things like that. In the meantime, we started to realize that the difficulty was the content accessible for the customer to really understand what we talk about. And first, even talking about insurance was not the problem. Was I'm coming in Singapore, how the healthcare system is working, how much does it cost, how much, what's the price for an appendicitis in a KK hospital in public or things like that. So we started to build. Because we are really on a niche market, you don't wake up one day and say, "Oh, I'm going to go on a website for insurance." That's the time you intend to buy your health insurance that you will go there, or you want to look about something. So you need to be visible, but you need to be trustful. So being a trusted third party. So what we've built is really like a content management things, which was not optimized at all for SEO. At the beginning, we were nothing. I mean, we wrote it literally ourselves, but we didn't know all the rules about SEO and things like that. But we wrote it in a way that we link to the question of all our customers. Meaning, like they were asking how much it costs to go here. Okay, we look at it and we do an article on that. And that's continuing to do that. So when we talk about the marketing, I don't like every time to say marketing and sales. We have a growth team, and this growth team is like very linked because, I mean, basically, if we don't do any more a really good quality content, we don't have any way to attract the customer, because that's the only way to scale, by the way, because going outside, as you say, every day, even the sales don't want to do it anymore. But they are happy to advise and to be very focused on the real need of the customer, so 90%, 10%. Because 90% online, they don't need the people, they understood 90% of the things. But the 10% is really where you do the trust because you know a specific thing, or even you don't talk about insurance. That's really the important thing. Give you some example for us. We are a bit older than the team, but usually when we talk about children and things like that, for French people, we know the schools. We used to be at the French school. You have the guy responsible for the finance of the French school alumni association, and I'm the president.
Yeah.
But so
do they all have UEX insurance, by the way?
No. We don't. We don't mix. But the point, I'm doing a bit the thing. But the point is we want to be like people. So they trust us before the product, and after
absolutely.
that's lucky.
Yeah, at the end of the day, people buy people, right?
Exactly.
Yes.
But that's a difficulty also, because if we don't have all this content, and when we scale, we are about to open in other countries, we need to do this work if we want to keep this trust on the content side and to really understand, because Kuala Lumpur is definitely different from Singapore. Hong Kong is definitely different from Singapore in terms of healthcare, in terms of product, in terms of market. So we need to adapt also all what we are doing.
Okay. So as the co-founders of the company, what occupies your mind now? And bear in mind, for those people that may be watching or listening, if you're not watching or listening live, this is archived. This is April 2019, so things are going to change, right? April 2019, what's at the top of your mind now?
Before or... Okay, actually, you can start.
Well, actually, it's been always the same thing since day one. It's our job, you're saying co-founders, is changing every month, I think. And that's what you're not being told when you start a company. Being out selling at barbecues was my job 2 years ago. And then every month you have a new job, and you need to keep this all together, keeping the same vision and the same why that you asked at the beginning. So you're still doing it for the right reasons. And that's the ongoing questions. Then obviously, they take different forms. Should I hire this guy? Should I open in Kuala Lumpur? In which way? But the goal is always, I still need to be doing this for the same why, and try to anticipate and realize that my job has changed. I was doing things myself, now I need to let go. You're saying people are buying people, but it's not sustainable. They need to buy the brand, and so the brand needs to be people. So that's what we need to change now. And so,
where do you get inspiration for that? Because there's a lot of great brands out there that are built around people, like the Zappos of this world and so on. When you think about insurance, your sector, where do you look for those kind of inspirations? Like, what you're talking about.
I will reply.
It's a great example. Like, how do you scale a company which effectively is built on very much people-facing people who get it, right?
Yes.
How can you have that when it's 10,000 people? So where do you get your inspiration for building that sort of cultural DNA? Who do you look to?
I think that's every company is unique in that way. So you can get inspiration, but in fact, if you haven't been part of it, you just see what they want you to see. So it's very hard to get the inspiration because you see, oh, that looks great. Then you talk to the employees and they say it's a nightmare. So to be honest, I would say it's 70% gut feeling and who we are, both of us, and then the people that are in that we trust to pass this on. So inspiration is more on how do you trust people and give this out than actually the brand itself and how we want to do it. And there are many good examples out there. So
I think you're going to provide some examples, are you not? You said you'll wait for his answer. Where do you get how to grow this organization? Where do you draw inspiration from?
You were asking first what were we thinking. I think the difficulty is like, for InsurTech. Okay, you have two ways of seeing it. You say tech insure or InsurTech. And the reality is a lot of people, and that's, okay, I'm very French, so I like to criticize. But the problem in insurance and technology, a lot of guys are saying, I'm doing great InsurTech things, and that's great. But they are not solving the customer needs, more doing like some kind of tech platform and as you say at the beginning, blockchain and API, and that's great. And I will connect insurance company together and it's going to be great. And so sometimes we have this kind of like, how do we create this valuation to show, because we have a great technology, by the way, but we don't display this technology because it's like just useful for our customer. But sometimes we have like it's complicated because sometimes I'm saying like, okay, great, let's connect to all insurance company because we can do it in 6 months. But it doesn't make sense. I will tell you, we cannot compare. The presentation of the product are not the same. So the most difficult for me is like to try to be focused. To be focused every time on what do we want to do, and as Clement said, why are we doing it? And you have new investors and you have new shareholders, and so they have specific goals with your technology, with your model, and so that's the most difficult. In terms of inspiration, I think I'm getting less and less inspiration. So not saying I'm very good at doing that, but the more in insurance, the more we are growing, the less I believe in the others, because they are every time linked to something which is investment or it's like valuation or something like that. And the good things about our company is we never had a problem with money. So that's really good thing, because we didn't have to sell ourselves.
What do you mean you don't have a problem with money? Everybody in the world has a problem with money.
No. I'm telling you that. Right? So okay.
You mean you were well funded, or you were making money from day one?
We were well funded, right. But
that could be a problem in itself, right?
Yeah, but progressively funded, meaning we were not linked to something like, okay, let's raise more money, but we don't know how to do it. Yeah. And every time we were very sincere with each other and saying, okay, we don't need it, so let's not do it because it doesn't make any sense, and we don't know what we will do with it. So.
But you had AXA was one of your original investors, right?
Verspiren, which is a family-owned company, a broker. Yeah. But by the way, they are it's French-owned family of the North, 100 years of existence. And it's kind of like $1 is $1. So it's like, but that's good because in a way that we were very linked to the reality. So at the beginning, I was very inspired by Lemonade, Oscar, which is one of the famous American insurtech, Frenchurance in Germany, which is more like the mutualization of the risk, how you cover each other and things like that. Bought by many, which was really a good idea also. Is like, you have a heart problem. If you have a heart problem, usually all travel insurance don't cover you. And what they say is like, we're going to recruit online 10,000 guys who have the same heart problem, and they won't have the same problem in the plane. So let's mutualize the risk together. So that's what they have built. Yeah. And this was kind of the inspiration. So I'm still following them. Now the inspiration is more like how Clement says, like how do we transform ourselves so we are not like a weight for all the team. We are helping them to grow. So it's more like other startuppers. I mean, you met Julien, you met Adrien Bartel from Sleek. We are, sharing a lot the culture and the problems that we are facing. And that's, the best inspiration I can get today.
Yeah, it's great inspiration. And I like to hear it as well, that you're well aware of the challenges of growing this organization, and that, you need to have that inspiration come from all levels of UEX as well, not just you two running the show, right? And like you said about hiring and so on, these are realistic challenges, because the danger is always that the two founders or whoever's driving the show is still driving the show in 5 years' time, right? You can't have that. You've got to have a situation where you've got to step back and let that happen. And the challenge with all of that is downloading your personalities and downloading that and incorporating that in the DNA of the organization. So that becomes the culture. If you like.
That's difficult because you're totally right. It's especially for me, for example, I really like to create. I think I like to push. My biggest challenge is to be focused for a long period. But at one point, I believe that I'm not a manager in a way that I'm not managing a portfolio, stabilized and things like that. I don't like it. But that's difficult for me to say. One day, maybe I'm not the CEO and I want to be maybe creating something else and I pass the things. Because you're right. At one point, you need to do that, but that's very difficult because that's kind of your baby and you want to still follow up everything. But that's I think you're right. It's the most difficult thing. I think it's like to pass the inspiration to others and to be sure that you are choosing the right people also with the culture.
Yeah, and that's what it is at the end of the day. That's what it's all about is, how you touch your customers really is going to be down to like even the individual sales reps or, the frontline people, the marketing teams, the staff, the growth team, as you call them, and how they interact with people. That will become your brand as less and less people know you.
That's
right,
true.
and you have less and less barbecues and so on to go to, right?
That's good. That's a good point.
But that's a sign of success, right? If you can kind of like that touch point that you have between you and the customer being a positive one, you can spend all the money you like on advertising and marketing and customer acquisition. But if that's a lousy touch point, you've lost, right?
Yes, true.
And that's the challenge. And I think it's a worthy challenge. And I wish you all the best in making that happen because you sound like, and you give me the impression that you're two guys who could make that happen.
Thank you.
You've got the right. Yeah. Well, let's see. I mean, going from a company of 20 to 200, it becomes a different company and different, like beast, a different animal. But you've got to keep control of the culture and making sure that is really what you set out to do and it's still serving people and so on, right? But the fact that you come from that world and you understand it, there's that great riff in the startup world about corporate dropouts. Yes. They're the most, I think, inspiring entrepreneurs right now because they know what's broken and they're out there to fix it, right? They're not necessarily changing the world.
You're right. The idea is not to change the world, it's like to make it a bit better. But
that's right. That's a noble cause.
Knowing what to do and being able to make it, that's the challenge.
Exactly.
Because it's always easy to look at it and say, that's broken, that's broken, that's broken. Yeah. But to make it happen on a daily basis, that's where we'll be successful or not.
Well, I wish you all the best in making that happen. Clement and Greg, a real pleasure having you in the studio as well and listening to your story and the insight into UEX and the why behind, why you're here and what you're trying to achieve as well. And I think people will get a good feel for what kind of company this is because you're early enough stage for people to get on board and make an impact, right? And that's the key, isn't it? And I think whether it's investors or talent looking at what you're doing, the first thing they're going to look at is you.
And we need talent, so
don't hesitate,
Let's put it out there. Best way to get in touch with you guys is through LinkedIn. Does that work for you?
Yes.
Are you active on
Definitely
LinkedIn?
LinkedIn,
So if somebody reached out, that you watch this show, you listen to the podcast, like what you say, I've got a few questions. Best way to do it. I think anybody
and I have something to offer you.
All right, okay.
You have the T-shirt and...
Here we go, let's hold it up.
For your next barbecue.
For your next barbecue.
Barbecue. All right, am I now becoming a sales rep?
Exactly. And I hope the size is good because we don't know.
I want to know if there's anything edible in here, right? That's what I'm looking for. No, thank you very much for the T-shirt.
You're welcome.
Very good. UEX, everybody. Gregoire Rastoul and Clement Bouthelier. I got that right. Thank you very much. Merci beaucoup.
Thank you.
All the best with your next stage, whatever is required. Come back on as well in the future and update us. I'd love to hear part 2 of this story. It's been fantastic. We're signing out from Pitchdeck Asia. My name's Graham Brown.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.